Okay.
So maybe we can just. I'm sorry about this, folks. We've had major technical issues.
Major.
We're trying to get 3 different people on in 3 different time zones, and just so y'all know, Jimbo can hear me just fine. He's struggling hearing Jake a little bit. So we're going to try to see how much we can carry this and span the country here. But there's a lot of good to be had out of having the 3 of us together. Jake and I have been talking a lot about having Jimbo on and some of his insight as a duck hunter and what he's doing. So we got some folks popping up, and hopefully we're going to get this audio issue worked out between Jimbo and Jake as we got people starting to pop up now. Jake, you got any resolution on your side, or you want me to carry this for a little bit?
I think you probably should carry this for a little bit because the audio is jacked up. If someone that's on here can type something in and let us know what it sounds like, we'll know what it is. We'll know what you're seeing, and if it's too bad, then we got to figure something out.
All right, Jimbo, sound check on you. Did you understand Jake at all, or are you just catching reverb?
No, I can get him. I understand what he's saying. I hear Stephen. I hear you really clean. Jake has got a lot of reverb, but I can make out what he said. I heard him say something about if folks are listening, if you can give us an idea what you hear. I get that.
He was trying to check, see what was coming through out there. But like I said, I got you as clear as you have me. I have you.
Okay, cool, very cool.
So,
I wish I had more light. My apologies about it being so dark in here. But if I go up front, there's a big crowd of folks up here in the camp, so it'll get loud up there.
Understood. Where y'all hunting right now?
I'm in North Missouri with my buddy Ira McCauley at Locust Grove.
Locust Grove. How are conditions, and what have y'all been seeing?
We finally strung 2 days together shooting limits, which was pretty good. We got some ducks due right and tight yesterday and today. Had sunshine and some wind. This morning, we got up early, but it was froze up and still and ice. So we just laid low and went and broke out a hole, broke everything up, and made the set mid-morning, and rode the set out till tonight, and we wound up with 5 limits. So it worked out pretty good. We shot them all pretty right and tight. Had some good dog work. Had some got out there a little bit. Just tough though. I mean, it's tough. Ducks are tough everywhere right now. But we finally put a couple together, and we're happy for it. So, but to the caveat to that is, here we are at Christmas almost. And as far as Blake Fisher and I, our part of RNTV, we need 13 episodes to do a year, and we've got probably 2 episodes in the can, and we're coming up on Christmas. So it's a tough year, boys. Ain't gonna lie, it's a tough one.
Y'all might have to hit Mexico for some extra footage.
Yeah, we may have to get creative, but that's part of it. We signed up for it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Jake, I hear you, but you're not clean.
Like
you're not clean, but I can hear you.
I put a new mic in front of me, but
I think it has something to do with, as we log on, Jake, it's taking up your bandwidth.
The more people makes it worse, I figure.
Well, but that's it's worth the headache, Jimbo. What about one of the reasons that Jake and I were talking about getting you on is, we spent a couple of hours 2 weeks ago talking about the pros and cons of having dogs in the hunting blind with us and setting dogs up for success. I feel like every time I'm going hunting, I rarely get to take my old faithful dog. I'm always taking something new, this year's project, getting this dog ready for that client, so on and so forth. So I feel like every time I go, I'm taking a baby. And I see so many times dogs that aren't prepared for the extra parts of hunting, riding in the back of the buggy, riding on the boat, and just the ABCs of hunting that they have to experience, as well as being set up, to be successful in a hunting situation. So one of the questions I have is, what's some of the good and some of the bad that you've seen in relation to dogs in your many years hunting ducks?
That's a really good one, Stephen. I tell you, one of the things that I've seen a lot, and I've been fortunate to not be this guy because I grew up in a dog family. But you see so many guys that got a really nice young dog, showing a lot of promise, but they think that sucker knows the English language as well or better than you do, and they go put him on the stands or in a dog blind or the edge of a blind, whatever, and they got 6, 7, 8 shooters, and they have a good day, and there's a whole lot going on. They don't give that dog a chance to learn, They got to get to where they understand that. Now, hey, we've all had, I know you've had some big, hard charging dogs that wasn't an issue to, but by and large, kind of like people, man, just kind of ease into it. Maybe let it be 1 or 2 people. But I've seen some people screw up some pretty nice dogs by putting 8, 10 guns over the top of them on their first day they go hunting, and thinking the dog knows that, sit here, goes over, back. It don't work like that, and just give the dog a chance to put it all together.
I had a client call this week, and he said he had a pretty positive response. The first day that they were hunting in Arkansas, and they camped out at the boat ramp, and the next morning they had a really great hole, and they were breaking ice to get the birds in and all. And he said, man, my dog just she got to where she didn't want to go. What was going on? And I said, man, this is her first year, and she's only had a couple hunts under her belt, and she didn't quite understand how to handle that cold water, all that ice. I said, you did the best thing by not forcing her, by not getting too crazy with it, but you just got to take your time. You got to let her understand the game and understand that, things ain't always going to be super comfortable, but you just got to, I mean, cold is a hard thing. The body shuts down, and
you bet.
And every dog's got a different tolerance level. And I applauded him for not pushing her too hard, and just said, hey, man, let's get a little bit more warm water and some birds splashing in her face a little bit more.
Good for him. And understanding that happens. I had one this afternoon. I'll tell one on me. We had a couple ducks down. I sent Charlie. We was hunting at the edge of a cornfield, and I saw that. I knew the duck was crippled. She saw him. She went to where he was, and she went deep. And I thought he would go the other way. And I was trying to I blew a sit whistle and a hear whistle. I was trying to get her to come to me, and I turned my collar up to where, it's like, hell, is this thing even working? And I got a nick, so I got some vocalization. I was trying to get her to come to me, but I should have trusted her because she was working that cripple, and she wound up digging up a madder drake, pulled him up by the butt, full of weeds and everything else. And I felt like I was that tall, boys. I felt so bad for nicking my dog when she was doing the right thing. And she stuck with it. And she slugged off the pressure. Thankfully that it didn't screw her up, because I cranked the collar up all the way, because it's like here. And I didn't realize she was on the bird. And the whole point there is learn to trust your dog. Now, we're talking about a 5-year-old dog who's picked up several thousand birds. Trust her to do what she does. At the same time, with a young dog, give them an opportunity to learn. Don't put pressure on them. Let them go get experience. Let them hunt. Let them move. Let them go do everything they need to do. You will be better off for it in the long run.
Absolutely.
Hopefully both those stories made sense to everybody. But
yes. Actually, Jake and I had a very similar conversation that we'll expand on this week on the same topic. But it's a point that I make to clients all the time, that the amount of pressure necessary is the amount of pressure it takes to get the desired response. And when a dog gets in an excited situation, they're feeling no pain. And
None.
I know you felt bad for nicking her with the collar wide open, but the caveat to that is she didn't feel it like she would have if she'd have just been sitting beside you minding her own business. The amount of pressure she felt there was not nearly as much as you think she did, because she was in the heat of the moment. She had that adrenaline rush going, and she was going to find that bird.
That's right. 100%
so
right.
I worked with a dog today. A 4-year-old master hunter that had a bad association to live birds. And we got it worked out, and we had her diving after birds, coming up with birds looking really, really good this week. But that's definitely a learned behavior. I was so proud of her seeing, we threw a live duck on the water and had a wing clipped, and it would dive and it would come out swimming so low profile on the water, and she had learned to spin circles and look for that bird and find it, when it was swimming away. It was neat to watch the dog putting it all together. But
nothing better to me than seeing a young dog start to get that light bulb turned on. They start figuring out what's going on when, they're used to being bird boys on marks to all of a sudden, hey, this sucker's coming from the sky. Or they hear old duck hollering up there working over the trees. Nothing better than seeing a young dog start putting that together in my mind.
You're exactly right. I explained to my clients that when they first start hunting, the dog's looking straight out. They're looking for the bird boy. They're not looking up. And when their eyes start going up and they start finding birds in the sky, that's when things are starting to come on.
Nothing better than an old noisy mallard hen that you're working and make them look up at it. That just puts it together.
What's that, Jake?
Is my audio still bad?
I can hear you fine. How about you, Jimbo?
I can hear him, but it's not near as good as yours.
So I got a question about, the concept of the dog learning to scan the sky for ducks or see ducks when they come into the picture. When Tanner did that, he started doing that this year. That's when he started coming out of his hole, breaking, not out into the decoy, but up out of his hole, and he sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, I know we've talked about this before, and you gave me a solution to that problem being a leash or tie down. But I've had that question come to me a lot over the past couple of weeks from people on social media. Can you address that, Stephen?
So, Jimbo, what he's saying is last year Tanner did a really good job of staying hidden when the birds were working, and this year he's seeing the birds better. He knows to look for the birds better.
He's wanting to get out front,
and he's wanting to jump out a little bit more. So the question Jake had was, how do you address that? And I'm going to put it back on Jake and say it's the amount of pressure necessary to gain the appropriate response. So, in the afternoon when y'all are brushing blinds, one good way to do it would be grab you a duck from the morning, tell him to go get in the kennel, and all of a sudden start hitting your duck call real hard and throw that bird right in front of the blind and shoot 2 or 3 times, and you will see him pop out like a jack in the box. And then you can correct him. Then you can correct him in the situation where he felt like it was live. That is the most important time that you can practice on this stuff. But what he has learned, and we've established that you have an intelligent dog, he knows the difference between training. He knows the difference when he's at the real thing. And you need to get him in the real thing. One of the coolest. Go ahead, Jimbo.
Well, you finish up your thought, and I'll add mine. Go ahead, buddy.
One of the coolest things that I ever saw, we were in a buried pit blind. It was an old fuel tank that was buried in the ground, and the dog was in a hidden barrel that was not attached to the blind itself, and the fella had an old worn out broom. And if the dog would stick his head too hard, he'd just swat across his nose with the broomstick. the straw or the broom to say get back in there just to work on him staying in. One thing's a really good idea is put your small chain in there and lock him in for that first shot or two. But the reason he wasn't popping out last year is because he hadn't put everything together. And the reason he is popping out this year is because he put everything together. And you've got to hold him to a higher standard. Go ahead, Jimbo.
Right. Well, the other thing I would say to that too is, and I do it with Charlie a bunch, and sorry, fellas, I moved positions there. One of the things I do with Charlie a lot, and she's bad about wanting to be out front all the time, especially when she's in a dog blind. So, and she knows better, but when she eases out front a little bit, I turn the collar down. I don't use a lot of pressure. I use a Garmin, not the old Pro 100, but the Retriever Trainer 70 or whatever it is. So I turn it to about 3. But when she starts getting out there too far, I'll go kennel, Nick, kennel. Just keeping her where she understands that she needs to keep her head up inside that kennel, because she'll get both front feet and both back feet on the front of that dog stand wanting to go. So she's probably hid if ducks are working really good, but when ducks are getting a little spooky, the more you can keep that dog inside that blind, the better. So I'll get on her little butt for that, but I'll try to do it without adding a lot of pressure, but want to make sure she understands right from wrong, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So what I've been doing while I'm working ducks, particularly in the snake pit, is saying sit, Nick, sit, to keep her in the hole. But then when they start to work down on the final swing and I lose my multitasking skill, I focus on the ducks, and the ducks pop, and I look up, and Tanner's just sitting right there looking at him out of his hole right in front of me.
Okay, so when that happens, are you picking a gun up too? I'm just asking.
No.
Great question. Great question.
Because a lot of times what happens is they go off the movement that's by them.
Great question.
But that's so that's the first thing. So he's going off of your verbal, like when you say take them or whatever you say, is he going off of that command?
No, he's going when the ducks get close. When he sees like one of the dipper ducks come in first, in and out, that's when he pops.
By the way, I don't know what happened, but your audio just got way better.
Mine did.
It did way better.
Good.
Yeah, it didn't necessarily sync up with your lips, but your audio is exactly. So he's figuring out when they get close, that's when he's popping up. You've got to be able to divide your attention a little bit better, and you've really got to where Jimbo's talking about doing a low level with Charlie. He's doing that when the birds aren't working necessarily, or when they're not right at it.
Right.
With Tanner and what he's doing. If he violates right there, you need to get really tough on him. You either need to snap him in where he can't jump, or you need to get a really good correction in and sacrifice that water.
Sacrifice that one bunch for the correction for the greater good.
Exactly, because that's how dogs get shot.
Yes,
absolutely.
And we hunted a place the other day. I forget where we was at, but to your point, Stephen, we was hunting in a pit blind. And Charlie, if she had been watching ducks, we weren't doing really good, but ducks were lighting. Lots of ducks were working. Ducks were lighting 75, 100 yards away. So she was seeing these birds light and work, and she didn't understand why we were not shooting. So she was really amped up. And there was one time I come up to shoot, and it was a controlled break. So she had her butt sliding on the ground, but she was out in front, and I couldn't shoot because of her. So to your point, I don't want my dog to get shot. And it made me, I put my gun down and I grabbed my transmitter. So if she done that again, we was going to have a big time black and white correction there. Now, I'm not doing that because I want to beat up on my dog. I'm doing that because I want my dog to understand there's a black and white deal here. You cannot leave where you are until I tell you to. So very, very, very important.
One of the things, you walk that fine line when you got a young dog. Honestly, when I've got a young dog and they break, I kind of smile a little bit on the inside.
How's the podcast going?
Because I'm super
Bunch of people
excited
on
that
there?
they're getting a little bit more experience. But when they're at Charlie's age,
Not
when
too
they're
many
at
people.
when they're at Tanner's age, we want to see them. We want to see them learn to be really good and still. We want them to know that they want to go. We want them to be happy about going, but we want to see them suckers get still. So the corrections are much more black and white. They're much more. I'd even say much more harsh when they violate it. So
Yes, they have to
so
be. You got them. That black and white has to be clear.
My biggest obstacle is the fact that I've got paying clients in the pit with me, and
And you don't want to
I
burn your
have
dog with a bunch of
no,
customers and you're
no,
leaning on the burn button and your dog squalling.
no, that's not what I'm
I
worried
get
about.
that.
I'm worried about sacrificing the big flock, particularly this year with paying clients. So it's a balancing act for me. I don't mind getting on my dog in front of clients. Uh, But my biggest concern is the way he comes out, especially in a pit. If he was in a if he was in a duck blind and he was coming out of the hole onto the ramp, that's one thing. But we're in a pit, eye level, and he's above eye level. When people come up with their gun, they're literally right at his head, and that's a huge concern for me. I mean,
what I would do, it's a real easy fix because that's a wooden frame that you're dealing with. You can mount an eye bolt right there on the edge of that frame and put a 4 to 6 inch chain right there. So if he tries to lurch when he's hooked, he can't. And just snap that at the beginning, snap that on, let y'all shoot the birds. He's going to mark him because he's sticking his head up, but he can't come out. And then
should I put that on the choke collar or the e-collar?
I would not put it on the e-collar strap. What I would suggest is put it on a flat buckle collar. Put another collar on him, and just flat on a. I'm not crazy about choke chains in those kind of situations, and you don't want to put it directly on the e-collar because it can break your receiver. So I would just put another collar on there, and it wouldn't take long. I can promise you, it won't take long. He'll figure out. We've already discussed this in other areas. He feels that clip snap once or twice, and he's gonna say, "Okay, I'm locked."
I know what's going on here. Yeah.
So
They get wise that stuff pretty quick.
That's probably the best remedy for me being in the situation that I'm in. It's just leash.
Here's the deal. Steven may be different than me on this, and he's a pro dog trainer. I'm a duck hunter, and there's two. That's two different. Two totally different philosophies. But we worry about putting too much pressure on them on a duck hunt to where we don't want to make ducks a bad thing. Yet at the same time, the more birdie the dog is, the more pressure you can put on them around birds. So you got to find that balance to what works and what doesn't work with your dog versus ducks. And Charlie is lots of prey drive. I don't know if she loves them or hates them. I don't know which one it is, but she'll eat one before Quick gets ready, and she's really good at finding them. So you can put a lot of pressure on her and with birds, and it won't bother her too much. Other dogs would probably slow them down. So you got to find that balance between how your dog reacts to real birds in a hunting situation and how they react to a training situation, and find that balance in there.
Well, I don't think that I agree with everything you're saying. I would say it a little differently in that, when we talk about the difference in birds and plastic, that really doesn't apply in hunting. What we're talking about is having positive experiences in hunting situations as opposed to negative experiences. We want to get them wanting to go.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
I tell everybody it's just like taking a child. That first time or two, you want them to feel like, birds fall out the sky, like this is easy, like the water's not cold, and this is fun stuff. I mean, that's that's the good things about taking
Yeah.
children. You don't want to take them out there busting ice with no heater, freezing to death on their first hunt and tell them how fun this is.
Well said, Stephen. Well, that's where I was trying to go. You just did it better. So
And one of the things that, and this is something I harp on with my trainers, is that our job as trainers is to make the dog owner proof. So that if you mess up, if you make a mistake and use too much pressure, if you do something that doesn't set the dog up for success, that it doesn't rock their world forever, and they get over it and just move on and say, oops, dad just messed up. As opposed to if you treat them with kid gloves and you never, ever expose them to pressure or difficult situations, and then they get to a hunting situation and you think you got your collar on a 2 and you got it on a 10, and you hit them with a 10 and you never see them again. That's a worst case scenario.
Right. And that was hence my concern this afternoon with Charlie. Now she's got a lot to go, and it didn't bug her none at all. So but at the same time, I put pressure on her when she was really doing her job. That being said, if you find that balance and understand where you are there, you will be much better off in the long run.
How many times have you hunted at a pit blind when the dog was in the bottom of the blind and couldn't see a thing?
Lots. And they hate it. But yet at the same time they figure it out.
They do, but every time you pull the trigger, you got to be killing their hearing. If you've ever been in the bottom of a pit when somebody shoots a shotgun, my gosh.
Man, that brings up another point. So there's some friends we hunt with that have a really nice place, but the dogs sit out front and you shoot over the top of them every time. And I had a place for years. My dog sat right there, and there was one gun set over the top of that dog's ears every time. The time she was 10, she could not hear herself fart. So nowadays, I try to put my dog behind the guns if I can. I try to do my best to keep her behind us to help her hearing out. Big point here to people, if you're looking about putting a dog stand up or wherever you're putting, take care of your dog. I've burned the hearing on one, but put your dog to where you don't burn their ears up. Like you and I, our hearing is not going to be as good as it once was because of shotguns. But try to help your dog last as long as they can. Put your dog behind the guns, put them off to the side where they can see and where they can hear and mark birds and not be shooting over top of it.
We've talked about that so many times and in depth. And one time I was painting a scenario for Steven. I said, okay, we're duck hunting. We're with Jimbo, me and you and a couple other people. Jim trying to figure out how he's going to set the decoys based on the wind and the gaps in the tree. What are you doing, Steven? He turns around and says, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put my dog to be in the safest spot where he has the best visibility.
Jimbo, I'm assuming that you didn't hear him super good.
Right.
All right. He was pointing out, we were having a dialogue a couple of weeks ago as far as the difference in how people see things. When we're setting up hunting, if we're in the timber in Arkansas, you as a hunter are looking for where you want to put the decoys, which way the wind's blowing, and how the gaps in the trees are going to allow the ducks to get in, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And, Jake as a videographer is looking for the best light and the best angle. He said, Stephen, what are you doing? And I said, I'm trying to find the best possible place that I can sit and hunt and let my dog have the greatest field of vision and the best place it can sit to be hidden and still be set up for success. What would your input be on that?
100% agree with you. You have to look at it from two different perspectives. From the dog's perspective, what puts them in the best case scenario to be successful, and then what puts you in the best case scenario to be successful. And sometimes there's a shift there, and that's why we need to work on remote sends and remote sets. I had it this afternoon. I had Charlie sitting 40, 50 feet from me tonight, and we had a great hunt. I told her to sit. She did great. She did fine. I called her name. She went and picked up the ducks, but she was away from the guns. She was behind everybody. Now, some of the birds fell to where she couldn't see them, but then I handled. And I don't like to have to handle, but she's enough dog that if she kind of knows they went that way, she'll go find them. So, to your point, Stephen, put your dog where your dog is safe. Once that happens, put your people where your people are safe, and then try to pick your ducks from there.
I agree. There's a more often than not, and it takes a seasoned dog to be able to handle this. Oftentimes, the best place for the dog to be and the best place for the shooter to be are two very different places for one reason or another. And having a dog that can sit at remote is great. You can get other byproducts from that. You can get a dog that gets disinterested if it's hunting slow. You can also have a dog that develops other things like vocalization or creeping because they're not locked in a place and they don't have you there to keep them. You know, if they're sitting on a steep bank, for example, they'll be at the edge of the water before you know it if you don't keep a close eye on them.
Yes, I've got one of those, and you have to stay on top of her all the time. Now, if she's like today, she picked up enough ducks and she started to kind of get the board down a little bit. She was fine, but if she hadn't hunted in a day or two, and then she's pretty fresh, you're gonna have to stay on her butt about staying in the dog blind, or she's gonna be creeping up front. You know, so I get that 100%.
Jimbo, I say this all the time, and that's the same thing that makes a dog good is the same thing that makes him bad. So what you're talking about with Charlie and that super prey drive, and that huge desire to get to the birds, that's what makes her want to creep and want to break. You know, that's the same thing that make when you send her, you know she's going to come back.
Yes, she's going to come back with a duck, but yet, to your point, she's going to be a pain in the butt. She's going to be creeping. She's going to be doing everything to make you stay on top of her. No, sit here, quiet. She's that dog, but yet, you know, when it comes time to dig one out, she's pretty damn good at it. You know, I mean, she's made some retrieves this year that are rock star kind of stuff. You know, just I can't believe she found it, kind of thing. And I know you've had those, and we've all had dogs that do that. I get that, but it's so cool when a guy says, "Man, I wonder if we can find that one," and you go, "Well, I'm gonna send Charlie," and they go, "Ain't no way that dog will find that duck," and you go, "Charlie." And in about 5 minutes, she comes back with a green head with his head sticking out, looking around. You know, man, that's them proud daddy moments right there.
Well, Jake doesn't realize it, but he documented the fact that I don't lie this week because he videoed Tanner chasing a mallard drake for 26 minutes. And I told him when
go, boy.
When he was going to buy the dog, I said, what makes this dog so good is that he is the type of dog, when you send him, he will not come back without the bird. Once you kick him off, he's going to handle it from there. Okay. And he didn't realize it when he sent me that 26-minute video, but I was like, there it is.
That's why, right there.
My question on that particular retrieve, it was short, but it was long. And I didn't know if I needed to exterminate the duck, go out and help him, or just let him work it out. He was diving on him. He had a clipped wing.
I think the answer is whatever you felt like is more beneficial for your dog. If he was getting positive experience and working it out and wasn't taken away from the hunt, by all means, let him work it out. You know, if you needed to go ahead and get rid of the bird so that y'all could get back to hunting, then do that. As long as you can get a clear shot the problem with that stuff, the problem with scenario you had, that bird was going so short a distance. He never got good and far enough away from Tanner where you could have really slipped in there and killed him until you walked out there.
Yeah, that was the thing. I had to remind my client not to shoot because I didn't want them to shoot my dog, B, shoot decoys, or C, damage my dog's hearing either.
The big thing to that is decoys can be replaced. That's not a big deal. But you can't replace your dog. And as a young dog like Tanner, you can't replace his hearing. So everything you can do to protect those things, I think, are paramount to a hunt. If I got to sacrifice a decoy or two to take care of a cripple, if we're in swimming water and you got a big, hard charging cripple, take the cripple out. Let the dog make it easy as he can. Because you get in some lunge water or deep water where dogs got to swim, even a dog with a big motor, like Charlie, like Tanner, like many of the dogs Steven has, you can run them down pretty quick. Make it easy on them. Take that cripple, turn him into a dead bird. If you burn a decoy or two, so be it. Buy some more next year. Help the economy. But clean up the cripples as quick as you can.
I was in a position where I really wanted my dog to learn. And to be honest, there were 6 or 7 other guys in the pit. Burton Angel, who's on here watching right now, was there, and he got to see it firsthand. But when he finally picked up the bird, it sounded like he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Everybody went, ah!
Jake said when he finally did catch the bird, the guys were fangirling it up there in the blind. They went crazy like he had scored a touchdown. And
that's cool, man. That nothing cooler to me. I like talking them in. I like calling to them. I like all that stuff. But when we get a bunch in and we shoot them up, and you send your dog, and they pick up them dead ones, whatever it is, and when they put the hammer down on a cripple and smack it, man, that's good shit right there. I ain't gonna lie.
How's that? What's talking about?
Here, I need a refill.
What do you want?
Some Evan Williams 17 and Diet Coke.
Diet Coke? Gotcha.
Evan and Diet.
We at duck camp in North Missouri with Ira McCauley, and there's a crowd of folks up there, and they're cooking supper, and we've had 2 good days in a row. So, y'all just take it from what's going on.
Are y'all hunting in the woods there, or you hunting out in the open?
No, we hunted this afternoon. We hunted a buckbrush edge in a cornfield, and we froze up this morning. It was cold, clear, still, no wind. We went in late, made the set, and just once we got the set made, we just stayed with it all afternoon. And we had, it wasn't fast and furious, but it was, we shot 5 limits this afternoon and just taking our time doing it. We got some good dog work, some good duck work. It was good. It wasn't wide open, wasn't wow, but it was decent. It'll make good footing,
One thing that goes back, if you do it long enough, you'll see it. And one of the things that always scared me about, especially my competition dogs, is it breaks your heart when you see a dog that's got all the want to in the world, but their hearing's gone.
Yes.
And they can't hear thunder.
Well, to your point, that's why I try to be careful where I place my dog. And to your point, Stephen, my old dog, I don't know if you remember any of the old early RNT videos, but my old dog, Katie, Katie was mad at him, buddy. If I had to go pick a dog to dig a cripple out of a brush pile, she would be the one I'd go to. But we killed so many ducks over her. Her hearing was shit. Thank you, Joe.
Hey, always take care of Uncle Jimbo.
Thanks, buddy. Her hearing was horrible because we shot over her. We didn't take care of it. So with Tank, Molly, Charlie, I try to take care of their ears. To your point, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jack.
So I got a change of subject based on a common question
Thanks.
I get. What is that?
That's really good. That's what's right here.
Welcome to summer.
That is really freaking good. I just tell you. Matter of fact, pass that back over here.
Oh my God.
Show 'em what's up.
Oil fire.
Oh, fire.
You pour
That
that in your
is-
truck?
No, you could, but it's really
Yeah.
good.
So my question is, or a common question that I get, people are asking me to ask you, Stephen, is the whining factor.
I wish I could.
I know, you brought up Katie earlier. She was a whiner.
Oh, you put me in?
I've got a whiner now, and apparently lots of people have whiners in the duck hunting situation. How do you address that?
So whining dog in a duck hunting situation, vocalization is one of the hardest things in the world to rectify. And because there's not a one size fits all way to do this. You got to figure out first, why is the dog whining? Some dogs think that they're actually calling the ducks, that they're actually helping. Some dogs are whining because they're really ready to go. Some dogs are whining because the duck call is actually hurting their ears. We had this conversation once upon a time, you and Jimbo, about especially those Mondos can be so hard and bark so hard that they can actually make them whine because it's hurting their ears. First off, you got to figure why they're vocalizing, and then you can help address that. If it's out of sheer boredom, throw them a chew toy or something just to give them something to take up their time. But most of the time, the vocalization is either based around boredom or really wanting to go. And the really wanting to go is where you got to get something else to focus on, whether it be give them a hard sit and make them focus on their obedience, or a lot of times when you try to directly address it, try to nick them with a collar or something like that, it'll actually make their
Make it worse. Make
it'll
it
make
worse.
it worse. So, a lot of times I will physically address it. I'll put my hand on them. I'll pinch their ear. If you really want to get into them,
Bite them.
bite their ear. Exactly.
Bite 'em.
Now, why does biting their ear work so well? Because it's more natural. It feels like a correction that they have gotten from their mother.
Goes back to the wolf. Goes back to the wolf pack. When you grab our nose, when you bite a dog on the nose, you bite a dog on the ear, it goes back to the wolf pack, and you get way more out of that correction than you do out of a collar.
And what the reason that you
more is your earbud, you're willing to bite a dog in the ear.
Say that one more time, Jake.
If he's willing to let someone else use his earbud, he's okay biting a dog's ear.
Well, and the thing about it, when you do that, when you get more out of the correction, like Jimbo said, what you're actually gaining there is more respect, more appreciation. Dogs,
exactly.
At the end of the day, they appreciate what can touch them. The physical means way more than the invisible, like electric pressure.
Man, an example there is Charlie when she's on the truck, and this is different than what you're talking about, but a good example. When Charlie's on the truck in her dog box, I can walk up to her in the back of the truck and she's fine. She's good. Either one of you two walk up there and go, "Hey, Charlie," and when you get too close, she's going to fix me to take a digit, boys. She's but it's the difference on who she knows, who she doesn't know. And it's the same thing what you're talking about. It's that alpha beta deal, and she is serious about it. And it's pretty cool that she does what she does, but you got to be careful with it,
Well, and what she's doing in that particular scenario, I guarantee you, if she's walking by the truck, if she's not in the back of the truck, if she's just by it, you can go up and pet her, no problem. But when she's in the back of that truck, that's her spot. That's her domain.
That's her place. You bet. When she's in her crate,
that's when you're gonna get. That's defensive nature. If you get bit there, it's your own fault because you stuck your hand in there.
Yeah, you put your hand in the wrong spot.
Wait,
and look, I ain't gonna lie, boys.
Hold on.
I've got to pee really bad. I got to
put
pee.
it on mute. Oh, Jimbo had it running through the other end. He was having a good back. There's one thing that we know tonight, and that's Jimbo's having fun at duck camp.
He is having fun at duck camp. Jim, I cut you. You're not on the screen anymore.
You were kicked out. And you still got him right there. You can see him, right, Jake? Cool.
Unfortunately.
You better hope that phone don't slip.
Yeah.
We'll know if you saw it. We'll know it because your face will tell the whole story. Great golly. Paul asked about what about a dog vocalizing on a cast? He can't help himself. He's got to focus on the training instead of the hunting concepts here. Again, all vocalization isn't the same. Sometimes when dogs vocalize on a cast, they're arguing with you. And sometimes it's like a mental break. It's like, oh, thank goodness, that when you cast them and they turn, they're actually barking because it's the release that they're finally, that you were holding them, and then you're letting them go. Not unlike you see dogs that are quiet on the line until they're sent. And when you send them and they'll bark when they leave, it's very similar when you see a dog bark on a cast when they're vocalizing out of that manner. So usually, especially with that idiot that you got, Paul, it's probably just vocalizing on it's the mental break of thank goodness I was being let go. Thank gosh, thank you. I'm finally being able to go. Other times you see them vocalize, it could be out of uncertainty or talking back, but most of the time it's a high rolling dog that really wants to go, and it's a mental break when you cast them and they get to go. Come back, Jack. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I got my veterinarian buddy and co-owner of Habitat Flats, Ira McCauley, just kind of sat down with us here. But to your point, Stephen, talking about Charlie, I love her to death, but as she has gotten older, if she hunts with another dog, or if she has hunted a day and then skipped a day, she will be pretty vocal until she gets to pick several up. This afternoon, she was fine. But when Cash was hunting with her today, she was her tail wagging, bouncing across the side. She was a little vocal. She doesn't know she's being vocal. I appreciate her wanting to, but it drives me batshit crazy that she doesn't. She ain't horrible, but she's on the edge of being horrible, if that makes any sense. And there's no way to fix that. Katie was the same way. As you applied pressure, whether it be collar pressure, hat pressure, whatever it was, you made it worse.
You know what my determination's been? And you guys are all dog guys. But go back to the basics. Don't give them pressure for whining. They don't know they're whining.
They don't realize it.
So what you need to do is not say no. You need to say sit. Down.
That's what
something that your dog knows that's not for something that they don't even know they're doing. So like you heard me today, I was like, Cash, we had duck land out there.
Can y'all hear Ira okay?
Yep.
Okay.
So I don't tell her no. I tell her sit or down or something that she knows that is not anything associated with something that's subjective. It's objective. You know how to sit. I'm going to redirect you into something that you know that's not, don't whine. They don't know what the heck that means, but they know what sit means. You say sit, they're like, okay. You say here, get them look out the other side of the dog blind. You redirect them. You take their focus off what they're jacked up about. And that's the way you correct it. You don't tell them no.
Let me ask you,
they don't even know what they're doing.
Let me ask you in a different way, Jimbo, where you said that Katie did it. You said that Charlie did it. Who else did it?
Man, Tank was perfectly quiet. Charlie was over the top whining until she picked up 25 or 30, and then she was fine.
All right, so what's the common vein? What's the common vein between Katie and Charlie?
They love
huh?
they love them. They want to go get them.
I'm gonna say it's their owner. Cause you.
Tyler Patterson said the same thing.
Hey, imagine that. That's it's
he blamed it on me.
you own
Hey,
what you
Jay.
condone, and that
Jay.
stuff doesn't necessarily start. It's not.
Steven, say that again.
I said
Start back from the front there.
if you own what you condone. This stuff with most dogs, it doesn't come out all at once. You know, if you got a dog that's going crazy the first time you take him hunting, you need to go back and do more training. But what typically happens is it's just a little whine, it's just a little peep. And after she whined or peeped, then you sent her and she went and made that great retrieve, and everybody cheered and everybody was super excited. And everybody said, what a great dog. And you said, you doggone right, she's a great dog. That's my dog. And look, what we'll do it again. And then she does just a little bit more peep. And you say, you know what? That's okay too, because look at how good she's doing. And before you know it, you got a screaming demon on your hands.
Hey, let me ask Jimbo a question real quick. I'm a host. I host a lot of people hunting all the time. I have a lot of people want to bring their dogs. I have 2 rules. What are they?
Dog does not bark at ducks and does not break.
That's it. I don't care what your dog handles. I don't care what your dog does, but if your dog's vocal or your dog breaks, those are non-negotiables. And you know what? 90% of them do.
Yeah.
Well, I can promise you, the next time I see a dog break that's chained down to an eye bolt will be the first time that I've ever seen one break. So you can eliminate one of those very easily. The other one, not so easy. And like I said, you know, most dogs, after that first couple of sets of shots, they're not going to break anymore. And you can eliminate a bad habit by just not letting it get started. But everything that you're, if you'll think, Jake, back to, you have 2 very different dogs that are both still learning the ropes. But if you'll think back, all the stuff right now that you really like about Coy is stuff that she hasn't gained enough experience to fight you on. And what you're fighting with Tanner is you're actually fighting his experience, that, you know, and the little things that you've allowed to get him to get away with are starting to snowball on you a little bit. So it's great to watch you go out there and win that big long retrieve. You got to stay on top of them and maintain your standards.
We got 4 people here that are very fortunate. We get to hunt a lot. We know a lot about dogs. We're out there a lot. Let's say you're a regular old dude. You get to hunt 2 days a week, 4 times a year. You want to pull the trigger, right? So, like, we have no excuse not to have a great dog.
We can adjust.
I mean, we should. If you don't if we don't have a great dog, guess whose fault it is?
It's ours.
That's right. But a regular guy, it's hunting 8 days a year, and he's sending his dog to the trainer. I mean, he's not on the button. Like, I don't mind. I mean, I'm gonna sit out a set or 2 or 3 or whatever I need to do to be on the button and make sure my dog is lined out. But your average guy doesn't have that opportunity. And I'm not saying it's good or bad or indifferent, but it's not a level playing field. And so guys that don't have the opportunities that we do, the 4 people on this podcast, they have a bigger challenge than we do. And, you know, it's hard to, you can't train for a lot of those situations. Like, you can't train for breaking in a hunting environment. Don't get me wrong. I know we can all argue that, and you can say, well, I can set up a pitch and blah, blah, blah. But it's a different deal when you're sitting there for hours and here they come.
All of a sudden, you got 20 lighted decoys and old Bowser breaks because he's as fired up as you are.
Yeah.
Especially a guy that don't, this is going to sound arrogant, but to your point, the guy that gets to hunt 8, 10, 12 days a year, we get to hunt a lot. We're fortunate to that effect. So he's going to be fired up. You get that bunch of 10, 15, 20, 50, 100, whatever that finishes right. He's excited.
Yeah.
His dog's excited. It all carries through. And it makes sense.
And a lot of these things that we paint with a broad brush and we say, well, do this or don't do that. it's not really realistic for the regular guy.
No,
So we got to try to figure out how do we get that message on to those guys that are hunting, 6 to 8 days a year. Okay, how do we fix your dog? We want you to have a dog. And I think, honestly, this is no, I could care less. I got plenty of money. It doesn't matter. But it all goes back to the basics, as you guys know. It goes back to obedience.
Basics.
It goes back to climb. It goes back to here's your spot in your Invisilab or whatever it may be. And you build from there. And if you don't start with that stuff, you're fighting a losing battle.
Steven, as a pro trainer with a pro trainer kennel, how important are basics to you and your program?
That important is not a word. I mean, it is essential. I mean, I've had dogs come to me from other facilities, hey, this dog's got 1 grand pass, and they've gone back to swim by in my program just because I couldn't train the dog to the level it could be without having the essentials and the way that I do it. So basics are everything. And what y'all are hitting on is experience. And you can't, the guy that hunts 8, 10, 12 times a year, that experience, it's hard to make a dog. So how do you get over that? One of my biggest things that I really, that I push for my clients, and they may not be as big around y'all as they are around here, but continental tower shoots where they're throwing 200, 300, 400, 500 birds at a time. And the birds are always coming from the same spot, but you got, 15 to 30 shooters, you got birds flying everywhere. You can't replicate that kind of experience. And you'll see young dogs really put it together. They'll start tracking birds. They might not be doing water retrieves, but at least they're tracking birds in the sky. They're figuring out the mechanics and the excitement based around so many shooters and other dogs and birds falling everywhere. It's a really good way to give a dog a lot of experience without having to jump in the truck and go on a big waterfowl hunt. And
Consistent too. They get to see that quite a bit, so they learn pretty quickly.
exactly.
So Stephen, I'm going to ask you a question because, I don't know if you know or not, but we're building a waterfowl training facility. It's a gun dog facility. It's not in my mind, it's not a hunt, test, field trial, whatever facility. But like for me as a dog owner, my dog's good. She ought to be good. She got a lot of opportunity and all that. But what I'm trying to figure out is I want to produce a good gun dog. And I want them to know not just what you're talking about. Like, I think the tower shoot deal's awesome. The handling in a big field situation where you got a snow goose at 300 yards. Let's get our dog way back there. It's awesome. How do we on a consistent basis, like, just teach those dogs the basics of we're in the corn. We shot a duck in the flooded corn, and I can't handle you because you can't see me. You got to do your stuff. Or even the WRP. At some point, if you want a good gun dog, you need to lay off the whistle. You need to trust your dog. You need to let them do what they need to do.
Hunt, man. Let them
and
hunt.
how do we get just a super solid gun dog that isn't overhandled? Because I see it all the time where people are blowing their damn whistle, and guess what? The dog knows more than we do in those situations most of the time. So how do we set those dogs up for success on the training side versus then the field side? You got to be pretty fortunate to be able to do it like we do. But on the training side, how do we help to set them up for success and deals like that?
I think the big key that you're expressing there is you have to use more live birds. You have to, use a cripple, use a, cut their flight feathers, whatever it takes to get what you're looking for. But you can't replicate what you're looking for unless you get them in the corn, unless you get, I did this today with a dog. We took the bird's ability to fly away and turned it loose in heavy cover and let the bird have a head start and sent the dog. and they've got to learn. That's an experience-based thing. They've got to learn to hunt. They've got to learn to track scent. And the way that you put them into the cover makes a huge difference. If you put them in the cover with the wind at your back, you're not setting your dog up for near as much success as you are if you're putting them with the wind in your face. And
so what you're saying is part of it's trainer training too, where you're like, hey man, like we had, remember that long sailor we had today?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I knew it went in those trees somewhere. What do you think is the first thing I do? I go on the downwind side. I mean, I walk downwind to where I thought the area of fall was.
Give her a chance to get some nose on.
And then I said, hunt, dead bird, and Cash knows.
Yeah.
What's up?
Well, it's like we had one this afternoon right when y'all pulled back up there. Charlie didn't see it because it was that she could not see that fall. She couldn't see the fall.
It was on the right side.
It was bad for her, but she knew it was a bird down. I just let her go, and I got her where she could get some wind, and she found the bird.
That's a good point. Wind, area of fall, all that, and you got to know when to handle, when to treat it. You got to know when to treat it as a mark. Excuse me. Know when to treat it as a mark. Know when to treat it as a blind, and know when to treat it as a hunt up bird. And you got to have
those
a set
are
of
three
commands
different
for
things.
your dog that are like, hey, find it or whatever.
They got to understand what you're getting at. You bet, 100%. And Stephen here is a very accomplished hunt test guy, a field trial guy, but there's a difference when you're trying to get a hunt up bird versus a handling bird or a blind. It's two different things. They're blinds, but they're not blinds. That makes sense?
They're definitely a hunting experience. I don't consider myself an anything unless you want to talk. Unless you want to talk about just, I'm a dog trainer. I train dogs and I try to maximize the dog's abilities and potential. And what you do with that dog when you take it home is your business. Or if you want me to tailor it towards one thing or another, that's great too. But my greatest job as a dog trainer is to try to maximize the potential that's in each and every dog. And, there's some of that stuff that we can do in training. There are certain things that they're going to learn in hunting that they're only going to learn in hunting, but it's just a whole different world. A trained dog is not a hunting dog. A hunting dog is not necessarily a trained dog. If a guy calls me and says, hey, I've got a 3-year-old dog that I kind of sort of did everything on, and she sits and she goes and picks birds up, but we really hadn't done anything formal. Can you teach it how to handle? My answer is not. You don't have a trained dog. You have a hunting dog, and that has never experienced much true formal training. And it's not going to be fair to the dog for you to take a dog that's never had a structure put on it and then say, hey, we're going to change the whole game and start from the basics now. So just like I said, a trained dog and a hunting dog is two different things. And the best thing you can have is a well-trained hunting dog. And the only way you're going to get that is to give them a lot more experience training and a whole lot more experience hunting.
Amen. I grew up in a dog family. My granddad and my dad trained bird dogs and retrievers for a lot of folks. I am not a trainer and don't claim to be one. But the biggest thing I remember my dad telling me, he said, you can teach them all you can teach them, but you cannot be killing ducks, shooting birds over top of them. That's the big thing. Now, there's a balance there. As Stephen, I know you well know, once they learn that balance between training and hunting, and they start putting that all together at about 4, 5, 6 years old, that's when they really start getting right.
That's all right. But the other thing I want to make clear, in my opinion, to our community is that, man, it's so easy to get frustrated with your dog and to take out your frustrations on your dog. I've seen it so many times, just like I'm sure you have, man. And it's so easy to lose your patience. But the worst thing you can do is to not give that dog a fair chance, patient with it, and take your time. It's easy for us.
Give them an opportunity to learn.
Man, it's
You
so
bet.
easy for us to lose our temper
You bet.
and take out
Amen.
our frustrations on the dog. But dude, it's
not
fair.
It's not fair.
Like even yesterday when I nicked Cash, dude, she's only 2, but dude, she's got a lot of experience. And I nicked her, which I didn't even have a collar on her. I've seen it so many times where you take so many steps backwards, you can barely get them back. I mean,
and you can screw up really quick. This afternoon after y'all left, I sent Charlie on one, and I was like, "No, here." And I was getting mad. I turned the collar up, blew a whistle, sit, Nick, sit. Turned it all the way up, but she was working that. She had found that cripple, and she was working. I felt bad for putting the collar pressure on her, but yet she blew it off, and she picked his ass up.
Well, the deal is, you get someone that's highly skilled. Get your average guy like me and you, dude. I have no business give my dog much pressure.
Yeah,
I just don't know enough.
I try not to.
Like
I hate
I'll
it.
gain way more.
I just took them off.
They having fun, dude.
They are, but I just cut them off, man. I'm sorry. They were getting carried away in their own little conversation. And
They probably don't even know we're gone.
We got off track about 30 minutes ago.
But I mean, the points that they're making are not wrong. They're not wrong. But you know, at the end of the day, we'd all like to hunt more. I mean, I can promise you, we'd all like to hunt more. Jimbo and Ira would like to hunt more. You know, there's always the opportunity to blame not enough reps and this, that, and the other. But you know, there's a lot of good there. You know, when Jimbo said about 4 or 5s when they really start making it, he's not wrong. I mean, there's a lot of good there. I mean, like I said, they said so many good things, so many tidbits right there that we could really build off of.
Yeah.
Jake, your video froze, and you got this really cool looking look on your face, but you ain't moving.
Am I froze now?
Yep, still froze.
How about
Hey, now you're good. Now you're good.
Now we switched.
What you know, and I would have pointed it out, you know, when I turned it on Jimbo about his dogs being vocal, and then, you know, the common thread in his dogs was him. You know, Mike Gibson came to mind. You know, Mike hunts his dogs a bunch, but he maintains the standard that he's training in while he's hunting, and that's what so few people are able to do, that are capable of doing. So there's definitely a lot to be said for holding your standards high and realizing that this is a truism of dog training. I'm about to lay it out there for y'all. Everything when it comes to dogs is aggregate, and there's no such thing as an accident. And what I mean by that is, every time your dog is a little bit vocal, every time your dog slips a whistle, every time your dog breaks, they're feeling you out to see what you will allow. And every time you allow that behavior, now, am I saying that there's such a thing that the dog doesn't hear the whistle because they're in lunging water or distance? Yeah. But but look at it the way that I'm trying to explain it. Every time they do one of those little behaviors, whether that be good or be bad, they are looking to you to see if you condone it. And if you don't say anything, they assume that it was okay. So that little vocalizing issue that's starting to manifest itself more and more and more, it's not going to get better on its own without you addressing it. Same thing with breaking. Same thing with slipping whistles when they catch scent of the bird and they got it all figured out and they don't think that they need that extra whistle. All those things are not going away on their own. You've got to, as a handler, as a trainer, as an owner, you got to hold the dog to the standard that you want it to be at, or it will go downhill in a hurry.
So, with all the things that they were talking about, I was really looking forward to your input, while like what Ira was saying about all the things that you were saying. I wanted to hear what you had to say based on what he was saying, because he was so sure of himself, and I felt like there were some things, man. I'd really like to hear what Stephen has to say, because I'm not so sure I agree with all these things.
Well, and Ira might not have liked me too much if you'd have let me interject in the middle of some of those things, because he had the typical, and this isn't a bad thing. It's something that you encounter all the time, and that's that, dogs are overtrained, or, all this training doesn't amount to anything if the dog doesn't know how to hunt this bird up in heady cover, things that are experience based, where I, as a trainer, obviously, I'm a proponent of. I'd rather have a more trained dog. I don't want necessarily a 2-year-old dog that's had 2 seasons of hunting over it. I want a 2-year-old dog that's had 2 years of training and then can learn how to hunt, because I can make that animal a lot better dog. I can make a 2-year-old dog a master hunting dog in a season, where it's still going to take 2 to take it. If you're taking a dog that's a year old out there, it's not going to have it all figured out. You're still going to be doing a lot of the same things with them when they're 2. I'd rather get more training in and prevent the possibility of bad habits being established and get all that stuff ironed out. Taking dogs like Tanner hunting, I mean, think about how much he's learned and how all that stuff he had last year, how he's kind of dotting I's and crossing T's. He's figuring all this stuff out now. It's all squaring up for him. And you're having other behaviors that are starting to manifest that you're going to have to take control over. But that's on Jake, not on Tanner. Tanner's just figuring it out.
True enough. And that's really on my inexperience, because when it happens, I don't know exactly what to do properly to correct it.
Well, and I have yet, and this is not, I'm speaking to you in a case specific point here. I have yet to, in my recollection, told you were too heavy handed. You shouldn't have corrected there. You err on the side of caution, and for the right dog, that's perfect, but that's not what Tanner needs. I would like the opportunity to tell you, hey, you should have backed up a little bit there, because that means that you're getting to some sort of close to balance, where Tanner's still getting away with too much. He's getting away with too much on the way to the blind. He's getting away with too much in the blind. He's getting away. When we were talking this week, this would be a perfect time to recall our conversation from this week. But you said the best he was and the most control you had over him was where? Where's Tanner the best in his work?
Training. Or
when you're hunting, where's he the best?
Oh, long distance casting.
That makes 0 sense to everybody else that's sitting in internet land. What you just said right there makes 0 sense. How you have more control over your dog at a distance, and he's giving you better work at 100 yards than he is at 2. And it's all because of the systematic approach that you've taken in your work, in your training, and that y'all are on the same page out there, and everything to do with the fact that he's still running the show when he's by your side. So I say this almost never to folks. You need to be a little harder on your dog. You need to get onto him a little bit more, and don't nag him. Don't nag him. If you're going to correct him and be done with it. But don't let him run the show. He's too good a dog for you to lose control over vocalization, him breaking out the box. The fact that I'd rather have a dog break and go. All right. And I would rather have a dog wholeheartedly sell out and leave than a dog that consistently jumps out the box and sits there, because that shows that they know enough to sit still, and they're still taking that much for them. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, am I interpreting it right? What he's really trying to do is just get a better view.
No,
No.
he's trying to get a head start.
Oh, okay. He's trying to be the lead dog.
He's trying. It's not that he's trying to get. If you want to say he's trying to get a better view, what you have to look for there is he's trying to get ahead of you. How many times did you hear Jimbo say Charlie wants to get ahead? Dogs are linear animals, just like this right here. You're either leading or you're following. And when he jumps out of that blind and then sits still, in his mind, is he ahead of you or behind you?
Wait, say that again.
Okay, when he jumped, like I said, if the dogs see the world as a line, as a straight line, and they're either leading or they're following, when he jumps out of that blind and then sits down again, is he ahead of you or behind you?
He's ahead of me.
Okay. And if he's ahead of you, then he's calling the shots. And even though you're saying his name at that point, he still called the shots.
This reminds me of a pack of dogs pulling a dog sled.
If you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes.
That's right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, what I really need to do with him in my situation is just tie him down in his box so he can't come out.
Yeah, and slip out in the evening before you go hunting and go work on some real deal obedience. Like really crack the whip. And then that morning, when you get him out and he's bouncing all over the place and you're getting ready, really crack the whip. And when you put him in the crate and you ride to the thing, really crack the whip. Just try.
See, this actually makes more sense to me because I'm going to make you laugh or I'm going to make you punch me through the screen. When I get out and I'm, setting the spread, putting the decoys out, getting the pit ready before the clients show up, I let Tanner, let him air. I just let him run around in the decoys, do what he wants. Is that something I shouldn't be doing?
Well, has it worked for you so far?
I didn't know that was the reason why he was doing what he was doing. But if that's it, then I'll stop. I didn't realize.
And part of what you're trying to do there is let him burn off some energy, and that's admirable. And that's the same thing same thing Jimbo's talking about when Charlie's got to pick up. When she picks up about 30, she's good. Well, when she picked up about 30, she's done. But
right.
The point to be said there is, if what you're doing is not working, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Why don't we try establishing some control here? And instead of letting him out and letting him run all over the place, leave him in the box while you're setting up, leave the collar on him, and have the transmitter stuck in your waders. And while you're setting out, if he goes to causing a fuss, correct him. And then when y'all get ready and you go move the truck and y'all are walking back, let him air on the way back and put him in that box and give him a good correction to start with. He doesn't need more excitement. He needs more control. And it might not be as fun, it might not be as relaxing, but let's take some steps to not let him get out of control so that you can enjoy him for the next 10 years, not fight to aggravate and fight.
I'm going to do that. I wish I was going out tomorrow.
I wish I had a nickel every time you said that when we get it all figured out.
That's right. I need to invite you out to hunt more often so you can show me how to make corrections in the field. That's what I need.
That's all I've been asking for. That's all I've been asking for.
That's an easy one.
That's the second time this week you said you ought to have me out there longer. You just need to say it one more time and it'll happen. So going back to the conversation that Jimbo was talking about correcting his dog and tracing back to our conversation on the 26-minute hunt, since it's you and I now, we can really nail that little bit of the conversation down. Let's talk about the rest of the story there. And what you said to me when I asked, why'd you let him hunt for 26 minutes? Do you remember this?
What? Wait, say again.
When I said, okay, first off, that was really great, but why did you let him hunt for 26 minutes? You said,
I thought my answer was because I wanted him to get the duck. I wanted him to figure it out.
But then somewhere in there, you changed your mind and decided to call him in. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I tried to call him in twice.
And he had nothing to do with that.
Didn't even flinch.
And did you use the collar?
I did.
And did not even flinch.
Did
How high
not.
did you go on your collar?
7,
How high does your collar go?
6.
So back to the point that I was making about feeling no pain. You don't have enough collar for your dog, I think, is one of the problems. If he's turning you off like that. 2, you tried to call him back with pressure and didn't get results. You were in a special situation there. You could actually physically go and put your hands on him. A lot of people can't when it's in a swimming water. You know, they can't actually get to him. But you actually tried to, and you put collar pressure on him, and we talked about whether or not this was a good idea or not. And the point that I made to you is that in this situation with this particular dog, I am A-okay with you putting some pressure on him and calling him back because he has adequate experience. He understands. And you said here, and just like Ira said, go back to the basics. And what I say is no here, no heel, no sit, no go. These are the big 4 things that we put collar pressure around. And at that point, he was feeling no pain. He had had adequate opportunity to find this bird. And he was really trying hard, and I get all that. But you said here, and it would have done an independent dog good to learn the lesson that when Daddy says here, it does apply to all times. I got onto another client last week for the exact same thing in another way. They had shot a cripple down. The dog had tried to find the bird, was unproductive, came back. This is his very first year hunting, and this dog is 1 year old. As I said, I'm not huge on hunting super young dogs, but I'm also a professional dog trainer. And when a client takes a 1 year old dog home to hunt, you know what I call that? Job security. Because I'm going to have the opportunity to fix a lot of problems a lot of times, you know, when the dog comes back. So this dog was doing really good. First hunt, everything was going fine. Couldn't find the cripple. Birds are still flying, so they call the dog back. They're shooting birds. Everything's fine. Birds are working, and the dog catches wind of this cripple in the buckbrush not far from the blind. And he's smelling it, and he's smelling it, and he's smelling it. And finally he says, forget you guys. You don't know what you're talking about. And he takes off to go catch the bird. And he was right after the bird, and the client put pressure on him and called him back. And at that point, I said, you know, here's the problem. The dog's already broke. The dog had already left. He was right on the tail of a cripple, trying to come up with it. That was probably not the best time to call him back because it's his first hunt. It's his first experience, and use collar pressure to pull him off. That could potentially turn him off. Now, that dog's going to be a superstar. He's going to be really nice. It's not going to hurt that dog. But a lot of other dogs, that could be a huge setback. So there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place when you need to understand that you need to put your foot down. There are other times when you go, okay, you know, you're going to have to let this slide because it's a young dog, or it's more beneficial to let this dog work it out. The young dog hunting on his first trip, let him work it out if he can. And if he can't, go out there and help him find it. Shoot the bird when you can and let him come up with it. For Tanner, working for a professional outfitter that's gotten to hunt more times in a year than a lot of dogs get to hunt in their life, come back, son. Here.
I got it. I think. I get the concept. We'll see how it works.
But and don't be afraid to go out there and be with him. Like I said, that's the great thing about where you're at. I mean, how far was he from the blind when he was hunting that bird?
25 yards.
25 yards. And how much swimming water is between you and him?
There's no swimming water. It's all feet on the ground.
That's my point. That's my point. So you got a lot of good there. You know, after our conversation this week, and you know, Jake and I had a pretty long heart to heart about, hey, you know, everything's going really well. A lot of things are in the right direction, but you on the highway to hell in some categories, and it's time to put an end to this bad behavior so that you got a good dog, not that you had a dog that could have been really good that you allowed to get away with too much.
Exactly.
So put on your big boy panties and let's hunt like big boys and hold him to a higher standard.
I'm ready now. I feel better. I mean, these conversations help me because you know, half the time I feel clueless about what to do. Then when I talk to you about it and I get some information and your attitude towards it, that makes me feel better because at least I have to go try.
Well, and I think that the biggest thing outside of knowledge that I give you is reassurance that you're not going to mess him up. You know, reassurance that it's okay. When I mean it with every bit of my heart when I say we're trying to owner-proof dogs. You know, when I say that, we're talking about putting too much pressure and the dog not folding up shop. I can't. There's no way that I can owner-proof a dog for being babied too much. That's the other side of the spectrum that I can't compensate for, because a dog's gonna sense weakness and they're gonna take advantage of it. It has nothing to do, zero to do with the amount of affection that your dog has for you. Oh, he loves me, he won't do that. That is absolutely the most inaccurate statement that you could ever say in relation to a dog. If a dog understands that there's weakness there, they are genetically programmed to capitalize on weakness. It's pack mentality 101. If you show weakness, they've got to fill that void. And that's what Tanner's doing. He's doing body blows and seeing which one hurts and looking for weaknesses on you right now.
I can feel it. Stephen, that was a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment tonight. Lots of good. I've like as usual, I've learned a lot of things, and I'm going to take him back out to the field. I got 4 more days at home before I get back to Prairie Rock and get back into the grind. But again, thank you for your input. Thanks, Jimbo and Ira, for coming on. That was pretty funny.
That was a good time. That was great. Appreciate it, guys. We're gonna hopefully have some more folks come on and talk hunting with us, because it is that time of the year. It is a wonderful time of year, and we get to enjoy all the fruits of our labor over the last 9 months, 10 months. So y'all hang with us. Hopefully we'll come up with some more fun and games for us in another week or two.
All right. See you guys.